I'm about to start playing. I'm trying to play it cool, but this is not going to last long. Oh, I hug you so much. Anyway, how's your day been?
Terrible. Really?
Brilliant. Super fun.
Just awful.
So busy.
I'm having the greatest time.
What part of Brooklyn are you from? Because the accent sounds very familiar.
Yeah. So I've actually just come back from New York, and I did the series of shows in New York doing stand-up. They all sold out. Stop bringing it up, you guys. They always ask about that. They all sold out. It was amazing. I did these shows in New York, and I walked on stage, and they didn't tell the audience that I was from the UK. So I walked out stage, started speaking, and the New York crowd lost their shit. It was like they didn't realise that the UK made black guys in XL. It was so weird being out there, like just normal stuff. Hi, how's it going? And they lost their minds. I looked to them like an American doing a bad English accent. That's what it was like on the stage. But it was so much fun. But now, glad to be back over here. Give me a cheers from Liverpool. Yeah, I don't know why I do that, because they could be good. Anywhere else? Sorry, who's got the most exotic? Where are you from, the most exotic place? Newcastle. Right, have you guys ever heard of Newcastle? Yeah, it's not. When they say, I think you don't understand what exotic means. I was going to say this, and I know it's kids here, but I'm not sorry. The first time I went to Newcastle, the first thing I saw was this lady pissing in the street. And I wouldn't have minded, but it was like 3 in the afternoon. And then she's looking at me like I'm the weird one. Yeah, so I just stopped filming her and I left. So you guys... Well, God, Angus, like you're like, this is my entire childhood on this couch. I'm so excited to be doing this. What, did you guys... First question, when you guys did you know it was going to be as big as it was?
Not only did we know, but we predicted that 40 years later we'd be in Liverpool, overweight and gray.
On this couch.
On this couch.
He's absolutely right. This is the truth.
Yes, remember I called it.
It is the truth. We wanted to put money on it, but I said, nah, I'm just taking candy from a kid.
We did. I think we all kind of knew that it was going to be a hit, because the script was fantastic just to read it, and the first Alien was just groundbreaking film, and James Cameron, is a genius. And we just said, well, I know for me, my whole goal was just don't screw up the movie for everybody. You know what I mean?
That was my goal.
My goal too.
All our goals.
And we almost succeeded.
Yeah.
So it had every indication that this is going to be a great film.
Oh, excellent. And like sitting down with James Cameron at that table read, what was that like?
I don't think did we ever do a table read?
Yeah. Were you?
I was in there. Memories fading. No, I wasn't there.
I don't think I was.
You were at the table read? Good to me.
I don't think I was there either. Was it in London?
Yeah.
In Pinewood? No.
You remember?
No, I came late. I showed up late. I was the last guy there because these guys trained. They all trained.
No, I didn't train. I had one toe in a boot camp, because that was whether it's serendipity or Cameron's genius. I arrived. I knew Billy and I knew Mark and Michael because we'd done a picture together. And I arrived the first day, and all these guys had been training. It was like this is William who's playing the lieutenant. And it was perfect.
Because you were supposed to be
the
outside guy that nobody knows
And the
anything
same
about.
with Sigourney too. She was not in the table read at the beginning because it was just us. I think that's what they wanted us to form a team. Yeah, form a team, and then make them feel really uncomfortable.
How quickly did that team bond happen?
Pretty instant.
I don't think there was any choice. You just turn up and you do your absolute best every single day, because the script was so off the charts amazing. Yeah. That's what I did.
But you had us over to your house. Remember, make dinner for all of us, and we. It was 2 weeks before we were being paid, but before principal photography started, which is really generous and unusual. And we got to hang out with each other, got to know each other, And I think a lot has to do with we're friends 40 years later, we're still, most of some of us.
But it was also like, you know, hitting a movie very early in your life, that was like your dream sort of environment. It was perfect. Well, I mean, what's not fun about that? And so everyone, you know, is like energized.
Yeah, we actually had to do a mini boot camp. You know, we had a bunch of SAS guys, Tipping, Trevor, Stedman, and it was during that time that we sort of cemented bonds. But Jeanette and I had the odd occasion to really form serious friendship and relationship.
Gin bonds.
Because we were stuck because of the guns, and Cameron didn't want us to de-rig the guns at any point in the filming because it would just take too much time. So Jeanette and I were sitting here on stools with a rig to hold the gun while we watched Paul.
They had
and
fun,
Phil,
and they got coffee.
telling jokes everywhere.
And we
having
sat
a
next
good
to each
time.
other like this.
How you doing?
I'm hurting. How about you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling really bad.
Are you hungry?
I'm starving. You have to go to the bathroom. We were allowed to get to the bathroom like once because they had to because when they first had put it on, the rig and the Velcro, the way it's held together with the camera, it goes up and down. It doesn't go out. So when they were testing it, what did you let go or did I? Whatever happened?
Because Cameron said present the weapon.
We went like this with the weapon. We went whoop! It shot out. The thing just ripped off us. And he was like, "All right, gaffer tape it." He just rolled us in tape. And then so we had to go to the bathroom before they put it on, sit on these stools. Then they would untape us at lunchtime, and then sit back on our stools. And that was 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I go home and dream about it.
Most movie making comes down to when can we go to the bathroom? Is it going to be difficult to go to the bathroom? And didn't you just go to the bathroom? That's really what it's all about.
It's the art.
I remember I was early on in the casting, and I remember I had a choice to play his role or my role. And
My role?
yeah, he said, yeah, I had a choice to play. He gave.
You're not pretty good.
Listen,
We've heard this story.
this is before you. This is long before you.
Long before me.
I had a choice. It was so early because he had started. When I don't know if this happened with you guys, but when we started,
This is the first time in 40 years we've ever heard this. Go ahead.
We're really close friends for 4 years, but they got secrets.
All right, let's take it.
You couldn't play me because you're too fucking skinny. So when we start, no, this is what happened. Now listen to me, don't listen to him. So what happened was I met early on, and I had also been offered a part on another film. And I had to choose between the two of them. And James says, listen, I can't offer you the role that you read for because I haven't seen anybody do that. But what I can do is offer you one of these other roles. And he says, I'll cut some of these smaller roles out and make one character just for you. And he says, which character would you like? And I said, Frost. And then I get on set, and then, Mark is there with his arms all showing and curves and all that. And I'm thinking, shit, I wish I had chose that role. But then I saw him when he was taped up and couldn't sit down. I was like, nah, I chose the right role.
Mark, the reason he didn't choose it is because deep inside he said, I don't have the depth that this role demands. Maybe Mark Ralston will come to town, and then look how that played out.
There you go. True. I was the only method actor on set.
We used to compete on set, he and I. We would come and flex in front of each other and see what
We shared a dressing room that had a full-length mirror, and being young men, and we were in great shape. But yeah, Rico and I used to do the whole, bodybuilding pose down, like, look, I got 6. Oh, you got 6.5. I better work harder. It was good fun.
I was like, that's the thing. If you have can we light up the two podiums? They're not lit. They're still not lit. But this worked a minute ago, it really did. There we are. So yeah, well, I'm gonna throw. One more question here. Then I'm gonna throw. Oh, actually no, we're gonna do it now. Yes, you are there, number 2. What is your name?
That's an unfortunate name, number 2. I'm Dave. I met you all earlier. Absolutely thrilled to have you all here. It's made a lot of people's dreams come true, so thank you very much. You'll remember me, I've got little Ripley there who gets all the you know, all the adulation from you guys, but I'm not hurt at all. Anyway, I was thinking of a question that hadn't been answered in the Aliens Expanded documentary, which was phenomenal. Thank you for that. What I will ask is, it's a highly quotable film, Aliens. It's got some great lines. If you guys could swap lines with someone else, because you prefer theirs, what lines would you go for?
Good question. I love it.
I would take Jeanette's line, let's rock.
Game over.
Why don't you put her in charge?
I would go with, what are we going to use, man? Harsh language?
No.
So what are you gonna do? Get a guitar and sit around? Was that you? Sit around the fire?
We all wanted to be Bill Paxton.
Paxton. Yeah. Who put her in charge?
It's funny when people usually quote aliens, they actually usually quoting Billy Paxton because he infused that role with such a delicious sense of chicken shit. Yeah, it was so memorable.
Oh, absolutely.
We miss him.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Number one, how you doing?
Hey. First of all, Jeanette, you rock. Like,
Thank you.
so what was the most memorable part of being on set? Like, was there pranks or challenges?
Well, I remember one, and it was actually quite a crucial moment in the shooting when Jim really got upset with the British way of making film. So we're all on set, we're about to shoot, and we're on this sound stage. You know, the doors on the sound stage are huge. And right as it was literally, he's gonna call action, and the doors slowly open wide. And at the bottom of the door, in silhouette, was Daphne, the tea lady, with her little cart. And she was wheeling in the tea and, you know, little British sandwiches that were, you know,
NHS sandwich trolley.
yeah, or maybe a cucumber. And she wheeled it in, completely clueless of the fact that we're going to be shooting in a second. Jim was like ballistic. And Paul said one of the funniest things I remember was Paul came up to Daphne and, you know, it was meager for like a U.S. craft service, you know, and in the US we have like tables with candy and stuff, and Paul came over and was like, hello Daphne, any chicken piccata today?
I don't recall that, but I'll take it. Chicken piccata, generally a funny food. It's interesting that of all the technical challenges of making a movie this complicated, I think Jim Cameron's biggest obstacle was the tradition of the tea, which was unshakable. They come in exactly whenever, and they go, can we not wait? No, we have tea now. We have tea.
You definitely cannot mess with a cup of tea. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kevin. I've seen Aliens only once, but your roles, have you watched the movie yourself, and what were you, sorry, my little tongue-tied, sorry. My question, have you seen the movie yourself, and what would you do differently?
What would we do?
Wow. Well, number one, I would have lived.
Yes, I would not say.
I would have taken back control of the whole mission. Sigourney would have made coffee.
What was it like going, like when you actually see it for the first time?
Well, I've never. That's an interesting question you have, because I had never done a film. And, you know, when you're on stage, you know, you do a performance, and then you think, oh, okay, I'm going to do that beat differently, you know, next night, and you're always. This terrified me, the fact that it's once, and it's on camera for the rest of eternity, and you just. You know, that was hard to get my head around. I sort of watched it for the first time with one eye closed. I mean, I was like, okay, I'm not going to look at that. In fact, my nostrils are uneven, you know, because you're going to be like so crazy. You see your face up there, and just kind of like steer at it and just say, well, okay, does that tell the story or not? I mean,
But sometimes, have you looked back on some of the early things that you've done, including Aliens, and gone, I was going on pure instinct, and I kind of liked what I did. And then later, I've seen some other things going, you should think, you should be naive like that again, because sometimes it's good.
It's a really interesting question because it was so long ago. And I just speak for myself here. As you get more confidence as an actor, you probably have a bit more of the ability to watch yourself without squinting or moaning or something. Just go, oh God, you really. So you get to look at yourself after a while, and you appreciate what it is that you do. And I just think, I speak for myself. Generally, if you do a first take on something, 50% of the time it's going to be the best. Maybe the third, I don't know, speak for myself, that's all.
I might be doing something wrong because I find I'm squinting more as I get older. Going, wow, yeah. When you're young, you go, oh, damn, that's pretty good. Now I go, oh, ooh.
I'm not going to go on because I was going to answer your question. The first time I saw it was at Marble Arch in the huge Odeon. It was cast and crew, so it was just, I just remember being strapped into a rocket ship. And the first thing when it finished, the thing that I remember most, I thought, Jesus Christ, this feels like this is the end of the movie. And I knew we had 3 more jumps to go. And I thought, this is like adrenaline.
Yeah.
And as soon as it finished, I thought, I just want to see that again right away.
I think that's why this movie is, 40 years later, people are still loving it. There are that many levels to it and surprises to it. It's really a masterful piece of work. And we were lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah. Mr. Cameron.
The first time I saw it was at the premiere, and I went to college at UCLA, and I was working at this theater in Westwood. And I remember working there and thinking, wouldn't it be cool to actually have a film here and come and watch? Because one day they were showing Grease, and the Australian actress, I can't remember her name, Olivia Newton-John, came in and sat in the back and watched the film. Nobody saw her. And I was like, how cool is that? Fast forward 4 years. They pick us up in the limo and they drive us to the exact same theater. And I walk in and there's these big posters of us in the foyer, and they're like life size, and there's one of me, and I'm just going, I put this shit out in the universe, and here it is. And when I saw the film, the thing that I was most surprised about was one, when you're working on a film and like this, you only see what's on the front of the set. You don't see what's on the back. And on the front of the set, it looks so solid and rocks and all that. But on the back, it's pieces of plywood just holding it up and stuff like that. So we're walking around, and we know what the set looks like. But on film, you just see the front, and it just looks so solid and with the atmospheric smoke. And then the other thing was, Bill did this monologue before the drop. And he would always be working on that monologue, even while everybody else was waiting around talking shit. And he'd be in the corner just going over his mind, working this monologue. And I was like, I don't know how that's gonna work. And the film came out and he stole the show. And I was just so impressed, but it wasn't by accident. He put the work in and it paid off.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And number one.
Hello, my name is Ash Robertson from Newcastle, north of England. So first of all, I want to say thank you for being here today. It's lovely to see you also. Thank you for making the trip over. My question is, James Cameron, one of my favourite filmmakers, he does have a bit of a reputation of being quite difficult to work with, a bit of a perfectionist, but he's made some amazing films, so what can you say? I'm interested to know what your memories are of working with Jim, and was it as difficult as people make out, or were you all on board with his vision and thought the hard work, will be worth it in the end?
Actually, this is like a vicious rumor that Jim is some kind of megalomaniacal, crazy person. He is a leader, he's a perfectionist, he's genius, but he lived with this script for 8 years before he actually had the opportunity to make it. And Jim, well, I'll just tell this. When I entered his office the day that I learned that I was actually going to be in the film, Jim's a very fine artist, and he had plastered around his office every single storyboard of the entire film. I mean, in sequence around all four walls. And it blew my mind, and you know, he's that detailed. And he was also on the hook for the whole film. You know, any overages he and Gail Ann Hurd had to pay for. So Jim was prepared, he knew what he wanted, and he's visionary.
Yeah, I mean, he actually creates, if the technology that he needs doesn't exist, he invents it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a skill. But it's an interesting thing, because you said very casually, you know, he's a bit of a perfectionist, but he has made some great films. Like, that's not coincidental. Those two go together. I mean,
Hard work pays off.
it is because he's a perfectionist does not mean difficult. It just means exacting, and he knows how it should be and what should, you know, acting wise and shot wise and special effects wise, and yeah, he is pretty singular.
I think I heard Jim say, I'm not a perfectionist, I'm a rightist. When it's right, that's good. Now let's move on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Interesting.
I've found Jim to be refreshing as a director because I think when you're the director and the producer and the designer and the writer and all that stuff, when you're on set, there's a lot going through your head. You're thinking about what's happening now, what happened before this scene, what's going to happen after this scene. And I remember talking to him one day. We were coming out of they had the rain, and when you show rain on film, you have to have a lot of water. And so we're going to do this scene, and we had blocked it. And we're blocking it, and I'm going, listen, when we do this, when I run out of the ship, am I going to go left or right? And he was looking me in the eye, and he goes, yes, and he just walked away. and I got it, because he was so preoccupied. He heard me talking. I needed an answer. He gave me an answer. You're going to run out of the ship? Yeah, figure it out. and also, I think I was doing something, and it wasn't good acting. And he says, no, that was crap, do it again. And I just loved the fact that he was able to, he had the confidence to just tell me that it was shit and not have to, there was not a lot of...
It's happened a lot in your career, hasn't it?
It happens off screen too. But no, but I just found it refreshing, because he doesn't have a lot of time to be being nice, the niceties. He just wants to get on with it, give you your answer, and keep it moving.
Yeah.
And I found it very refreshing, and I liked it.
Yeah, me too.
Briefly, I used to work out what footsteps I would require to get a really good shot at cracking him across the chin and watching him flatten on the floor in front of me. I'd rehearsed this in my mind until Sigourney had a word with him and said, you have to ease back and calm down a little and just treat people a bit more normally. And the fact that I heard that, but the point being, I had no idea whether he was making me feel like a cat on a hot tin roof, because this was where Gorman was. Paranoid, fearful, anxious, uptight. And Jim and I had a couple of things going forward, and I've had this with other directors. You don't know, really good directors, you can just speculate. They're doing that because they know what emotional state I need to be in. But then, do you remember the strike? When the suits came from LA and we dropped everything? How long was that, 4 days, 3 days?
I don't remember that being...
So it was behind, it was over in time, spending too much money, and the suits came in, and we were told, get dressed, go to your dressing room, stay there. And we watched these suits. We were dressed up, made up, my memory, at Block M, and it took about 3 days, because Jim fired Roger, first AD, Derek, who had done 2 Stanley Kubrick films. So he knows what he's doing. And Jim said, no, we're behind because it's Derek's fault. And the crew said, you think we're where we are because it's Derek's fault? We quit. The whole unit walked out and said, we are not picking up a tool. In come the suits, talk. It's like 2 days.
Sigourney
I remember
was actually the
this.
intermediary.
So you cut it gets negotiated. Jim stands up. I think there were 200 people, 220 people on stage every day. They're making a speech, and Jim gets up and makes a big apology, heartfelt. Mea culpa, it was my fault, we're behind, but I can tell you we have the possibility of a very fine movie. We have to get behind this, we have to pick it up. And it is entirely my fault. Everybody else is reinstated. It's not Derek, he's great, but please, let's do this now. And my personal experience is, to me, it was like a pistol going off for a race, and I, from that moment on, felt like I was on an Olympic team.
But Bill's it's the first time I've ever heard you think about the fact that he might be playing like directorial games. Like, I remember one time in that group scene where he was on your back. You were doing a speech, and he was basically saying, "Go faster." That's kind of what he was saying.
Let it go.
I'm not angry.
I wasn't even there that much, but that was one of the days that I remember. And you had an argument with him. But it's the first time I've actually thought that maybe he was playing you a little to keep you
I
on
think
edge.
very smart directors can do that. And you don't know it's happening because
I don't
they're
think that
smart.
was his thing. I don't. Wasn't there also a thing, the Canadian thing?
I never thought of that. Seriously, I've never thought of that to this day.
Maybe Sigourney was it because Jim is Canadian born and you're Canadian born, and sometimes we tend to eat our own. You know what I mean? It's like you know, you get mad at your own family.
I'm Canadian. He was really nice to me, so.
See, I remember this a little differently. I remember all of this kind of this is the urgency and the suits were going to come in, and I remember Sigourney having a conversation with them and saying,
calming them down.
you know, you can work these people as long as you want to work them, but if you're going to work them, you got to pay them their overtime, and you got to pay them overtime the way overtime is paid. You know, golden time, time and a half, whatever it is, and asked him to hire them back. And he did, and when he hired them back and accepted responsibility, the crew, one of the reasons why I think this movie is what it is today is because when she stood up for them, they stood up for her. And they're professionals anyway, they're gonna do their job, but when they saw that she stood up for them, they didn't have a voice, and if somebody said something, that person could be fired. I think when she stood up for them, they stood up for her, and that's when the film kind of like galvanized. And as a young actor, to watch the number one on the call sheet do that, it was such a good experience. It showed you when you have that number one spot, there's responsibilities that comes with that.
I've never seen this before, but it was like my first film, and I was shitting my pants, really. And she went, the first day I got on set, Bill was really nice to me, but the first thing that happened was Sigourney Weaver walked right up to me and said, "I'm Sigourney Weaver, we're so happy that you're here." I don't think that's ever happened to me again. Like the star of the film does that. That was part of her thing. She could lead it.
Thank you.
A question for all of you. You mentioned having a director that gets the best, using you to get the best out of you. You think a lot of actors will take something from themselves and put that into the character. Is there any parts of you that you put into the character?
Nothing.
Well, I mean, I'm going to not speak for everyone, but I mean, that's what you do as an actor. You use, I mean, there's different methods of acting. I mean, because method acting is like, it's so much of you, and there's other, I mean, like I was trained both. I trained in New York and in London. It was a mixture. Even in New York, it wasn't one way. It was all the professors, they came from different schools of acting, and they hated each other. But I loved it. You know, you're getting this and that, and so I, like a magpie, so you use parts of you that you relate to, you use your imagination, you use the script, you use anything and everything that'll bring this thing on the page to life as a real human being.
Yeah, I remember feeling, it was a quite literal feeling for my character and for me of being the odd man out. You know, I got there a little later and these guys had all bonded and worked out, and I'm like showing up with my little file of facts, my little, diary. And I was thinking, and everybody was so wonderful and we all got along great, but there was a part of me that felt like I'm not quite really part of the team. And that really fed like what was Burke's thing. It's like, okay, if you're the guy who's picked last in every, for every game, it's like you're gonna do something, you're gonna have a side of you that's not pretty, perhaps. And that was, so I remember like, oh, this feels accurate, I get it.
Was I right in remembering our scene going to see Sigourney, thanks for the coffee, your first scene ever shot? Because it was my first scene. And I didn't know that it wouldn't. No, it wasn't. Okay.
Different actors work differently. A lot of actors in the States, I feel like they work from the inside out with method, get the emotions and whatnot, sense memory. A lot of British actors work from the outside in. You do period pieces, you find the right costume, you find the right wig, the right pair of shoes. Most of us have studied both places, so I think you use what works for you. And I found that the uniform itself helps create the character. When you're wearing a uniform that's metal, and you're wearing all this gear, and you're carrying guns, you start feeling like a badass. Whether you're a badass or not, you start feeling like a badass. And then, at that age, we were at that age where you could be in the military. And so, I'm thinking personally, this is how and I come from a family, where my brothers and my father were in the military, so it wasn't that difficult to kind of plug into it. But I think the uniforms, the costumes actually helped a lot.
Quite frankly, sorry, Jeanette, I let the gun do the talking. The gun did all the acting for me.
I mean, I was the furthest up from the character. I mean, there were no women in the Marines at that point. I mean, I know, isn't that amazing? Because I didn't realize that either just recently. Someone said, no, there weren't, in that year, they weren't allowed to be in the Marines because it made so much sense, but it just wasn't happening. And then now it does, and then you're like, oh my God, that's right.
I read the script and thought, how amazing, what a great idea. Women can be Marines. And it was like 2 or 3 years before it happened.
Yeah,
it wasn't even an option.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about his future is just out of reach. So it makes logic. As far as, I mean, the character serving life sentence for murder in a gang, it's not my upbringing. I love playing different characters. It's like putting a mask on and you let your imagination go wild, and I mean,
really, what a transformation, right? I mean, you see Jeanette, lovely lady from Beverly Hills, California.
That's where I grew up, yeah.
But complete transformation, right? People still marvel that you're not Hispanic? Seriously?
Definitely, she had the biggest leap.
But see, I always wanted to be that. Oh my God. I mean, that was that's the whole thing to become an actor. I don't want to be myself. Who wants to be yourself? I mean, I wanted to be what I was not. And so, I mean, it was just like a dream come true. I mean, to be a soldier, run around with a gun. I mean, as a little girl, I wanted to be a tomboy. I mean, that was also, so I mean, like I knew what, I wanted to shoot a gun. My God,
It's pretty ironic because actually, when you've been doing it for a while, really all you can be is yourself once you get further down the road because that's what the material's made of. But I had the good fortune to do a couple of things before Aliens, playing Marines from Vietnam. And so my head was in the space. I only met Jim and Gail once before they offered it to me. I was a Marine already for a long time before we hit there, so it's timing. But I think all I wanted, you just think, I'm just going to be as real as I can be. That's all. Be real. What does that mean? People do it differently.
We'll take number 2.
Hi there, thanks for being here. It's great to see you all on the stage. So, I first saw Aliens when I was 13 at the end of the 80s. And to me, Ripley and Vasquez were always the girl bosses. Like, I still, after 40 years, I still think, I don't want to be like them, but I would love to have their strength and their firepower. So my question is, what was it like to play such a role as a woman in the 80s? As you just said, there weren't any Marine girls at that time. And what was it like for the man to be around that kind of female energy that was quite not developed in the 80s?
Well, from the male perspective, it was very embarrassing because Jeanette kicked ass. And you remember in the early scene where we're just like communing and Rika and I were tasked with doing pull-ups. Well, I'll admit, I did the wimpy pull-ups while Jeanette was doing perhaps the hardest pull-up of all time. And she ripped them off. I think she used 2 fingers. It was like nothing to her. She was just ripping them off. So really, she was at a level that none of us ever achieved.
The description of the 2 of them, it was in the script, was they said they're like 2 Doberman pinchers playing. when they play rough, but they're like, and that was just a great image of the two of them. You know, I'd never seen, you know, a character like this. Actually, I had seen, I don't know if John Cassavetes, if you know his film Gloria, Jenna Rollins, I don't know if she plays a girlfriend of a mob boss, you know, like a tough girl from Brooklyn, and it's an amazing movie. And she is so tough. I mean, you know these women, they're, you know, your aunts, you know, and she was like, you let a woman, you know, trick you, you're a punk, you know, just these tough women from the neighborhood. We all know them, they just were not on screen. I mean, that's the thing that wasn't like, they don't exist. All these women who take charge exist, they always existed. You just didn't see them on the screen.
And imagine, the studio actually tried to talk, they told Jim, you can't have a female action star, not realizing that Gaylan Hurd, Jim's wife and producer of the film, is tough as nails. She's tiny, but she's a general, and she was like, why the not, right? And then think of the vision that Jim had, not only for Sigourney to be the first real female action star, but then creating a character like Vasquez. I mean, ladies, you all know, you watch that and we're like, yeah, fucking right, we can, and right, we'll kick ass. And it's just a political thing is, you know, in America right now, fuckface is trying to take women out of the military. Out of the military. Big mistake.
I was also going to say, if you look back at history, the 80s was a time of relative peace. When is there ever relative peace? But the point being, when war happens, I did a play about World War I women who worked in the munitions factories and formed a football team and actually were so good they beat the men. 70,000 people came out on Christmas Day in 1917. And anyway, the point being that women, when pushed to step up to reality in the face of war, are just as strong.
When allowed to.
Allowed, exactly.
Well, I mean, the film was about mothers and their offspring. I mean, that's my. If you look at it, it's Ripley. She loses her daughter. She doesn't come back before her daughter dies of cancer. It wasn't her fault. She's protecting the daughter. The queen is protecting her offspring. I mean, a mother will kill to protect her child, and it's really to me, that's a huge theme running through it.
This time it's war.
Yeah. We've got time for one more.
Yeah, guys. So sadly, a couple of the crew are no longer with us. So what would be your fondest memory of working with them?
Their sense of humor. When I think of Tipping and Stedman, I think of their. I mean, Stedman was like a big cuddly teddy bear, and Tipping was just a fireball.
Fearless.
That's what I fearless fireball. And so when I think of them, that's what I think mostly of.
Thank you.
You guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's so insightful. Really I think I speak for everyone. It's so much fun to really sit down and meet you guys. What we're going to do very quickly before we go, we're going to take a picture with us, with you guys in the background. So as we do this, let's have a huge round of applause for our panel that you've seen today. Thank you. We will start taking pictures. So all of you up, we will start free and have a quick picture. All right. We'll jump from this. Come on, right here. Hold right here.
I didn't realize I'm going off. That's right. Me too.
Thank you very much. Guys, you've been amazing. Thank you very much. And a huge round of applause for the cast of the Aliens. There are loads of panel discussions for the rest of the day and tomorrow if you're around. I've
he's like, what was that? Am I on tour? I am on tour.